Hello everyone, it's Seth, probably better known as Saffron Olive, and today we are counting down Wizards' 10 biggest mistakes with Magic Arena. So a little while ago, we had the economy stream where players were hoping Wizards was going to make big steps to make the arena economy more player friendly, but the end result was essentially Wizards saying they were happy with the current economy and not going to make any big changes, which pretty much everyone agrees is a huge mistake. And this got me thinking, what are some of the other biggest mistakes that Wizards has made over the last few years with Magic Arena? And just so it's clear before we get into the top 10 list, these are actual choices Wizards make. So you're not going to find like, oh, this card was bugged, oh, the client crashes a lot when a new set releases. Those are things that I assume Wizards wishes would not happen. They're just kind of the cost of doing business when you make a game. You're going to have some bugs, you're going to have some crashes, but that's not what we're talking about today. These are intentional decisions made by Wizards that I think qualify as pretty big mistakes. So before we jump into it, a quick reminder that our video today is brought to you by Card Kingdom, and if you need some Magic cards, you can get them over at cardkingdom.com/MTGGoldfish, and even get a free MTGGoldfish sticker. Just let them know you want one in your order notes, and they will hook you up. So coming in at number 10 on our list, we have card suspensions. So in Historic, rather than banning cards, Wizards decided they were going to suspend cards, and then either unsuspend the cards or ban the cards. And on paper, this actually makes some amount of sense. It should give Wizards the ability to quickly remove a problematic card from the Historic format, and then if the meta shifts or new cards printed and that card's no longer problematic, add it back into the format just as quickly. But in practice, this system turned out to be a disaster for two big reasons. Number one, in practice, suspensions essentially are just bannings. If you look at the 13 cards that are banned in Historic, discounting the Strixhaven Mystical Archives, that were some of them were pre-banned, pretty much every single time a card is suspended, it just ends up being banned. So it's essentially a banning, except you don't get your wild card refund right away, like a less player-friendly version of banning somehow. There's only been two cards that I have found that were suspended and then unsuspended. One is Burning Tree Emissary, which was suspended, unsuspended, and has still been fine in Historic ever since. The other was Field of the Dead, which doesn't actually count as a success story because it was suspended and then unsuspended and then destroyed the format again and had to be banned anyway. So that's kind of reason number one. Suspensions 90% of the time, 85% of the time are exactly the same as a banning, except you don't get your wildcard refund to be able to build another deck. It's like a less player-friendly version of banning. The other reason that suspensions are suspect is Wizards just hasn't been consistent with them. Even though they implemented this system of suspensions and unsuspensions rather than direct bannings, they still just sometimes directly ban a card. Like Thassa's Oracle just went on the ban list, skipping over suspensions. So when you add the inconsistency with the fact that you don't get your wildcard refund, I think that card suspensions rather than card bannings definitely deserve a spot on our top 10 list of biggest arena mistakes. Number 9 on our list, we have no multiplayer. Commander is currently the most popular way to play Magic, and Commander isn't on Magic Arena, and it's unlikely to ever come to Arena because Wizards didn't build Arena to support multiplayer.
I believe I've said in the past on streams and whatnot that we don't plan on adding multiplayer in the near term. If we were going to add multiplayer, it's something that I would probably consider more as a standalone product than something integrated with Arena.
And this is especially hilarious when you consider that Magic Online, built 20 years ago, actively supports 4-player Commander games, but Magic's newest client can't pull it off for some reason. So I will say, even though I think this is a really big mistake, I think Wizards might have got a little unlucky here. When you consider that Arena launched in 2018, and was in beta for a little bit before that, and was theoretically designed for years before that, I think that when Wizards made the choice to not include multiplayer on Arena, it was during a time when Commander was much more of a fringe format. It wasn't the behemoth it is today as the most popular format in Magic. At the same time, maybe Wizards could have read the tea leaves and realized that this is the way Magic was heading, or at least gave Arena the option, the ability to maybe be able to add it in the future if necessary. So even though I feel like Wizards got a little unlucky with the timing of this one, they still should have realized that multiplayer is something that matters to player, and at least given themselves an option to add it to Arena in the future if necessary. Number 8 on our list. Declaring itself a top 5 esport without adding the features necessary to be a top 5 esport. So why top 5 esport, might be a bit of a meme at this point. That was actually something that Hasbro's former CEO used to say about Arena in investor calls. They would actually claim that Arena was a top 5 esport. The problem is that Wizards didn't bother to add a lot of the features necessary to allow Arena to succeed as an esport. Like spectator mode is a big one, and as a result, viewership never really backed up the claim of Arena being a top 5 esport outside of 1 year after Arena released, when Wizards essentially bought fake views for their Arena tournaments by embedding their stream in unrelated websites to pump up the view count, and this led to some huge numbers, like 150,000 people watching the first Mythic Invitational. Although once Wizards stopped paying for views, the numbers crashed into the low thousands, which isn't just a bad number in an absolute sense, but actually way less than they used to get for paper pro tours and other big paper tournaments before Arena released. Number 7 on our list, we have no dusting and bad duplicate protection. So I know, dusting isn't the cure-all for Arena's economic woes. When it comes down to it, it's really a matter of rates. Like, how quickly can you acquire cards? If wildcards had good rates, that would be fine. Dusting with bad rates would be even worse than wildcards. So you could have a dusting system and have it be just as bad or even worse than the current system. However, there is one aspect of Arena where the choice to go with wildcards over dusting is especially bad for players, which is when you open more than 4 copies of the same card. The 5th card problem, as it's called, and the lack of dusting has been a big issue because you open these extra copies of cards that you can't actually use anywhere, but they're stuck into your account and you don't actually get any value out of them. So Wizards added duplicate protection as a way to get around this problem, solve this problem. But duplicate protection had a couple of problems. One is it only applied within a set. So while it'll keep you from opening the 5th copy of Woe Strider in Theros Beyond Death, it won't keep you from opening the 5th copy of Woe Strider in Jumpstart if you already have a playset from Theros Beyond Death. And then the other problem is when Wizards added duplicate protection, they made such big cuts to other parts of the economy that the overall economy actually got less player friendly. They cut individual card rewards, they tried to cut rewards from events, but then players freaked out about that, so they went another direction. But the end result was they made so many cuts to other parts of the economy, is even though they sort of halfway solved the duplicate protection problem, they actually made the overall economy less player friendly along the way. Number 6, hiding the vault. While we're on the topic of duplicate protection, it's worth mentioning it only applies to rares and mythics. When you open a 5th copy of a common or uncommon, it goes into the vault, which when full can be open for some wild cards. However, the rate at which the vault is filled is really slow. A 5th copy common adds 0.11% to the vault, and an uncommon adds 0.33%, which means to actually fill your vault, you gotta open like 1,000 useless commons, over 300 useless uncommons, and you get a reward that's 1 mythic wildcard, 2 rare wildcards, and a few lower rarity wildcards. Initially, Wizards promised they were gonna improve on the vault system, but instead they just ended up hiding the vault so it only shows up on screen once it's full, so you can't see the pittance you're getting for your extra commons and uncommons. And then recently, when Wizards was asked about the vault, they said they consider it a bonus, which makes it seem like it's probably here to stay.
What happens in the vault is that you open up, duplicate commons and uncommons, which happens quite a bit. You just get progress in your vault, and eventually it shows up on your screen, and you can open it. You get some wild cards. For us, we think that that's just a nice little bonus. We don't.
Sure.
It's not an integral part of the economy anymore, but we leave it as a bonus for people who end up opening a bunch of things.
Number 5 on our list, we have removing Pioneer from the Arena roadmap. So more than a year ago now, Pioneer was a promise. It was supposed to be coming soon. We actually had a Pioneer Master set on the schedule for a little over a year ago, but then that set got delayed, and then it was removed from the roadmap altogether, and then Wizards stopped talking about Pioneer and decided to support Historic, maybe because Historic's better for them selling cards. They can make you buy Alchemy cards to play Historic or whatever, and now we don't really know where Pioneer is at. Wizards has kind of stopped talking about it. The latest we've heard is they're adding a non-Pioneer, non-rotating format to Arena, but we don't know the name of it yet. We don't know if this will eventually lead to Pioneer. They also said they weren't planning on doing more remastered sets, which makes it hard to see how we would actually get Pioneer. So when you add this all together, I think not adding a paper adjacent non-rotating format has to be near the top of our list of biggest mistakes for Magic Arena. Number 4 on our list, we have having Alchemy impact Historic. So I know a lot of people just love to hate on Alchemy in general. Personally, I like that Alchemy exists. I think in general, more options for players as far as the formats they can play is a positive. However, there is a huge issue with Alchemy. Well, there's several, but maybe the biggest is, for some reason, the Alchemy nerfs and buffs impact the historic format, which is just absurd on its face. Alchemy is essentially standard with some extra cards. Historic is like Magic Arena's modern or vintage. Imagine if a standard banning like Elrond's Epiphany also made Elrond's Epiphany illegal in modern. No one would accept that. It's a ridiculous idea. Why would a banning of a card in a format with a couple of thousand cards necessitate changing the card in a format with 20,000 cards? It's much more powerful, but that's essentially what's happening on Magic Arena. So by adding Alchemy, Wizards has unintentionally destroyed Historic or greatly diminished the Historic format, which is my biggest problem with them adding Alchemy to Magic Arena. Number 3 on our list, we have not fixing the economy. So this was actually the most recent addition to the list because of the economy stream Wizards did a little while ago, where players waited for months, held their breaths, expecting good news about their arena economy, and Wizards made a couple small around the edge changes, but essentially said, we're happy with the economy and we're not planning on making any big improvements. And right now, the biggest thing holding back Arena, in my opinion, is the economy. Players just can't get the cards they need to play the decks they want. The game keeps getting more expensive as Wizards adds formats like Alchemy. And Wizards, in a very tone-deaf way, just essentially ignored the community's pleas and concerns about the game being so expensive and said, kinda don't expect any big changes. So not fixing the economy, I think actually might even deserve to be higher on our list. Although we got a couple of big ones coming in our top 2. So it comes in at number 3. Coming in at number 2 on our list, we have getting rid of competitive best of 3 play altogether. So let me ask you, what makes Magic so great? And I believe the answer to this question is that Magic is really a ton of games. You can play it the way you want, I can play it the way I want, and it gives something to everyone. Like, no matter how you want to play, there's going to be an option for you. That's what makes Magic the greatest game in the world. Well, in Magic Arena, Wizards has really pushed players to playing best of one style of Magic. They love citing a statistic that 97% of games played on Arena are best of 1. The client itself, this used to be even worse, is designed to make you play best of 1. It was almost impossible at one point to actually find a best of 3 game. It was hidden behind these toggles and just really, really confusing. The reward structure pushes you to playing best of 1. So everything about it pushes you towards playing best of 1, which is fine. I'm glad best of 1 is a popular option. However, in 2018, Wizards took it a step too far and announced they were cutting all competitive best of 3 options from the client, which means if you wanted to play competitively on Magic Arena, your only option would be to play best of 1. And this led to a huge freakout, a big enough of a freakout that Wizards actually ended up reversing course, thankfully, because not having best of 3 as an option would have been an absolute disaster. But it still blows my mind that Wizards would even consider, even try to cut competitive best of 3 play the way that Magic has been played for 20 years in paper from Magic Arena altogether. And number 1 on our list, oh my god, we have charging 2 wildcards for Historic. And this is another economic change, and oh my goodness, this one was wild. So Wizards promised players that they would add a format outside of Standard where they could keep playing their cards after rotation. We waited and waited and waited almost to the first rotation on Magic Arena, and Wizards announced the Historic format as a non-rotating format. The problem is that Wizards initially announced that if you wanted to get a card for Historic that wasn't currently legal in Standard, you would have to pay 2 wild cards instead of 1. So essentially, you want 1 Teferi Hero of Dominaria, that's 2 mythic wild cards. You want 1 Shockland, that's 2 mythic wild cards. The only reasonable explanation I can find for this is Wizards doesn't really want non-rotating formats to be popular on Arena. Formats like Standard that rotate and always have new sets makes Wizards a lot of money because you gotta keep buying cards. But if players could buy a Historic deck and play for months or years without making many changes, how would Wizards line the pockets of their poor shareholders? So this was one of those changes that the community essentially forced Wizards to walk back. Everyone freaked out and Wizards said, okay, we won't charge you double to play Historic, but I think in the end, Wizards still ended up winning because the end result was they ended up adding Alchemy, they ended up adding Historic Anthologies, they ended up adding Jumpstart. So instead of being able to charge double for Historic on Arena, they essentially just turned Historic into a pseudo-rotating format where you're gonna have to buy a ton of cards to keep up on it anyway. So even though the community kinda won in the short term by making Wizards walk back the 2 wildcard thing, Wizards and their shareholders still came out on top in the long run, like always. Anyway, those are my 10 biggest mistakes Wizards has made with Magic Arena, so let me know what you think. Are there any others that I missed? Which of these mistakes do you think is the worst? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will talk to you soon.
Thanks for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, help us out by clicking that like button down below. And to keep up on all the latest and greatest, click that subscribe button. And don't forget to hit that bell icon to get alerts whenever we have new videos. And if you want to, check out some of our other sweet videos here and here.